to the deck that beats this deck, Obedient Dead. So yeah, I had to change this deck around a little bit, since like this is the first deck I built for my channel, and I haven't been that happy with the deck build I made back then. Like, the changes I made to the deck there aren't that many changes. I think I changed in total, I switched in just a couple of cards, but the changes have been just really important, because the cards I swapped in were like Exsanguinate, and those are just way better. Just really amazing cards. And the most important card I switched in since my deck build is Griselbrand, because like at first I was like, well, Griselbrand, an 8-drop, I don't want to run 8 drops in a deck that has just 6 drops that dominate completely. Like, I mean, this deck has insanely powerful 6 drops, and I was like, why would I want to run 8 drops then? Because I pretty much already won when I dropped Grave Titan, so I didn't much see the point of it. But then, like, you go up in mirror matches against other people playing Obedient Dead, and it's like, well, you got the Mutilate for the other person's Grave Titan, you got some Murders, you got a Rise from the Grave, their Basket Worm to kill all their tokens, and from their Grave Titan tokens, and then they do the same to you, and yada yada. And you're both just sitting there in a removal war, and then all of a sudden out comes their Griselbrand, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I lost, because I don't run Griselbrand, oops. So yeah, for that reason, you want to run Griselbrand, because you want to be able to win those mirror matches against other people playing Obedient Dead. And aside from that, like, it also, of course, is amazing against other really powerful decks. Almost dropped the spoiler there. For the next deck, although I'm pretty sure you can all guess what it is. But yeah, so really good card in general, and even against aggressive decks, sometimes just having a big 7/7 lifelink, even if he comes out a little late, can be good enough. So, and you can tutor for him. So this deck can definitely gets in the situation of having like 13 lands out quite frequently, actually. So he's not as ridiculous as you might think. Other changes, like other interesting things. Let's talk about the changes first. Like Exsanguinate, I didn't really see the point of the card at first, because it's just pure card disadvantage. But in a deck like this, I mean, sometimes you have all the removal in the world with all the murders, but you're playing against, like, for instance, Born of Flame, and you can kill all the guys, but they're gonna come back, because they're phoenixes, they come back, and they're burning your face, and you're like, well, damn it, what am I gonna do here? So having some life gain can actually be really good, and the reason this is good life gain, rather than just being like 7 cost, oh, I gained some life, blah. The reason this is good is because, first of all, it's flexible. You can play it early, you can play it late, whenever. And secondly, you get to hit them in the face with it, and sometimes just win the game, because you're hitting them in the face with it. And like, I've gotten in situations where I'm like, oh, I've got a Corrupt in hand, and an Exsanguinate in hand, and I've got a Demonic Tutor, let's go get the other Exsanguinate, I guess, lol. And just keep playing Corrupt and Exsanguinate until they're dead. That can be pretty insane. So yeah, it's a really good card, and it was definitely an oversight of me not to include it at first. But you know, I mean, I got off from the 2012 metagame where everything was about card advantage, and this wasn't really that impressive to me. It didn't seem really impressive to me, but it totally is. So aside from this, something that may surprise you is I'm running only one Crippling Blight as an early, like, I see a lot of people playing like the Fume Spitters and the Blister Beetles and more defense against aggro decks, basically, and namely Goblin Gangland. I think the one Crippling Blight is usually good enough. I mean, this is definitely a card that is good against aggro decks, but then not so good against control decks, and that counts for all of these, like the Crippling Blights and the Fume Spitters and the Blister Beetles. The difference is that, like Crippling Blight against other control decks, I can still like just play my big bomb and have them not expect to not be able to block me. Like, I can take out their Fog Bank with a Crippling Blight still. So Crippling Blight is still useful against control decks, whereas Fume Spitter and Blister Beetle isn't, and Fume Spitter and Blister Beetle are only good against aggro decks. And that means that half your matchups is going to be a dead card in your hand, and you don't want that. So that's why I'm running Crippling Blight instead. But I'm only running one of them because I don't need it that much, and I still it's still not always the most amazing card. Even if I do get to use it against control decks, it's obviously a murder would be better or something, But it does its job, and having one means I don't ever have to draw two of them. And because drawing two of them against another control deck can just be like, oh shit. That can be an annoying situation. I run all the Jet Medallions and the Sign-In Bloods, because the only way this deck ever loses is when you don't get your land, pretty much. So you want to make sure you get your lands out. Liliana Spectre has been something I added quite recently. And it's added because, it's another one of those cards when you're playing it, you're like, well, I can discard him now with a dude, or I can play this big bomb. What am I gonna do? And you hardly ever want to play Liliana Spectre. But if you're the opponent, and you're like, haha, I'm holding this overrun, next turn I'm gonna overrun, haha, haha, wait, what? Liliana Spectre, I gotta discard my overrun, wait, what? And it's one of those cards where, if you're playing against it, all of a sudden you're like, maybe I should add that to my deck. So that's why it's in there. Just really powerful cards. I'm running all the Liliana Shades, not just because they fix my mana, but also because they're just really bomby creatures for 4 mana. The opponent actually has to deal with Liliana Shade. And something I wasn't really aware of at first, that I've really grown into with my playstyle for playing this deck, is that against some situations when time is not really of the essence, it may be better to just pump out your Liliana Shade and let them kill it in response. Against blue, of course, you don't always want to do this, because they can just get so much tempo advantage out of bouncing it and then holding a counterspell up. But in some situations you're like, okay, well, if you have the removal, then you gotta use it on my Liliana Shade now. And that can be better than just dropping your next big bomb guy. And especially if they have board wipes or something. You make them use their removal on this guy, and then you play your next guy. Just slow roll, and sometimes that's the way better way of doing it. Oh, one of the really ridiculous cards in this deck. Fraction Obliterator is a 4-cost 5/5. Okay. It has Trample. Wow, this card is actually really good. Wait, what is this next ability? Let me read this. Whenever a source deals damage to it. What? Yeah, that's what you pretty much go through when you first read this card. How is this a 5/5? I would be happy with this card as a 2/2. With this ability. And the fact that it's not just that, it's actually a bomb that can kill people. What? How is this card so good? I don't understand. But hey, I'm running it because it's amazing. Other really sweet tricks is, play Runescar Demon at times and just get Rise from the Grave, because they got the removal for it, and they remove it, and then you're like, Rise from the Grave, my Runescar Demon, ha ha ha, get my next Rise from the Grave, or get Gristlebrand, or get Massacre Worm, or get Corrupt, whatever. Just insane. And all these 4 guys are just so amazingly powerful. It's ridiculous. Some other things that maybe of note to you is these things are basically too expensive, and these Reaver Demons don't help in a mirror match, so that's why I'm not running them. Phage is a big costed creature that doesn't do anything if they immediately kill it, whereas if I've played Grave Titan, I still got my zombies. If I played Massacre Worm, I still take care of their side. If I played this, I still draw my card. If I play this, I draw 7 cards. So, those things do something even if they get immediately destroyed. Phage doesn't. And the other reason is you can't get it with Rise from the Grave. Although it is hilarious. when you Chaos Warp and Phage comes up. Like, what? um, Actually, would that mean a loss for Grinning Malice, or would that mean a loss for the Obedient Dead player? Yeah, that would kill the Obedient Dead player. That would be hilarious. Chaos Warping them into Phage. That would be, oh wow. That is a goal in life for me now. But anyways, although nobody's playing Phage, because I think everybody knows it's not that great. I do see people play Zephyr Gorgon. Personally, I don't like it because it's too expensive and you gotta sink mana in it, and sometimes you want to drop 2 big bombs rather than just 1. And again, it's one of those creatures, if they immediately kill it, it didn't do anything, and your other bombs did. And of course there's the Nightmares, which is just a little underwhelming compared to the other guys, and if you want beat sticks, then the Shades are better. There's the Dread, which a lot of people are running. I like the card, but I've hardly, just in practice, I hardly ever see his ability do anything. And if his ability isn't gonna do anything, then I'd rather just play more Shades instead. As beat sticks. And then, like, Halo Hunter may be useful against, like, maybe, I don't know, some of the angel creatures in the game, although a lot of them can't actually be touched by this guy, like the big Shroud guy in Mastery, although they do run 2 other angels, like Maelstrom Archangel and Lightning Angel, that Halo Hunter does kill, although a lot of people aren't really running Lightning Angel. But yeah, basically, I mean, so he might be okay, and he is still a 6-3 Intimidate guy, so I don't know. But he does die to Lightning Bolt. I don't know, like, why would I run a 5-drop guy like that when I could instead be running Liliana Shades? Is basically my theory there, but I have ran him in the past. He's just a little underwhelming at times, that's all. But, like, he got printed in the same set that Baneslayer got printed in, so that's, I guess, the interesting thing about him is they gave him that ability to destroy target angel because they wanted Baneslayer's protection from demons and dragons to be relevant. So they printed this guy, which can't kill Baneslayer Angel, basically, because it has protection from demons. Yeah, I know, that sounds pretty crazy, but that's pretty much the story behind why this guy got printed and why he has that ability, but yeah. So interesting stuff, though. Necrotal doesn't kill black creatures, doesn't kill artifacts, and like the Sphinxes in Mana Mastery are artifacts, and like in the mirror match you don't want Necrotal, so... And plus it's a 4 mana removal, like the body isn't gonna do much. 2-1 first strike at 4 mana, like he isn't gonna be much, he isn't usually gonna be relevant to the board, and anything that he could actually block off also gets killed by Mutilate or Infest, so it's really only a kill spell, and like why would I play this as a kill spell when I got Murder, you know? Although it does say that creature can be regenerated, so I guess that's something. Icy Manipulator is something people run to get by protection from black. I don't think you really need the card, and it's underwhelming otherwise, like it's a 5 mana removal spell pretty much, and then it takes a mana every turn after that to keep them busy. But like against Exalted Darkness, for instance, they do have black protection from black creatures, and Icy Manipulator deals with it. But so does Infest, so does Mutilate, and so do a lot of the cards like Exsanguinate and Corrupt, and you can make them discarded with Mirestole, so you know you've got plenty of answers against it without having to weaken your deck against other decks. And Icy Manipulator means weakening your deck against those decks that don't run pro-black creatures, or against people who don't actually draw the pro-black creature or someone. So I don't really see the need for it. And I've hardly ever gotten in trouble against protection from black with this deck. Like maybe I've lost like 1 or 2 games along the way, but not a lot. Definitely not a lot. So Befoul, it's bad. It can't kill black creatures, so in the mirror match this is bad. Destroy target land is great if you've got like an efficient way to keep on doing that. Like in Ancient Wilds, it's amazing to destroy people's lands. But even then, the slime can also hit up artifacts or enchantments. It's more flexible than that. And, you know, this card can can just I mean, it's a 4 mana removal, and otherwise it's a 4 mana destroy your land. But usually by that time they already got some threats on the board, and you got to worry about those threats rather than the lands. I don't know, like it's just not as good as Murder. Basically, is what it comes down to. Murder is just insanely powerful. Befall, not so much. So I think that's about it for this deck. That's all the key points I wanted to discuss. So let's move on to the next deck, which is Mana Mastery. Oops, I kind of spoiled it before I went there, I guess. But there it is. So yeah, mana fixing, I think this is perfect. Like, I never really suffer from having these Terramorphic Expanses or Evolving Wilds in any deck. The only thing is, like, I don't always want to run all of them, because I don't always need all that land. But I usually can find a turn to play them and not really worry about it. So I just run all those. I run 3 Evolving Wilds and 3 Cultivates, because I think that's enough. That's more than enough other fixing, and I want to be able to actually draw my cards and be able to do stuff. And if you run too many ramp spells, you can get in a situation where you're drawing ramp rather than other spells. So it's a little bit of a delicate balance, but too much ramp is definitely better than too few ramp. That's just something at least. Because at least, you know, if you're playing your ramp, you getting your land down, and then you're also drawing your land out of your deck, so that you're more likely to then draw your bombs. So, but I think this is pretty much the perfect balance, though. So I'm very happy about it. Other things like, you know, Savage Twister is a card I really like, especially like it's a one-sided removal spell again. A mass removal, one-sided mass removal spell. John Charm can also be a one-sided mass removal spell, but only one of each, because against some decks they may not be relevant, especially in mirror match. Band Charm is just really good. There's always a use for it. It's one of the most amazing removal spells, and then it has 2 other options as well if you need them. Lavalanche is just the best deck, the best card in the deck, because this just wins you games out of nowhere. The one problem this deck has is that this deck is amazing, first of all. So how do you still lose? Well, there's 2 situations. Like, one is you don't get your lands. Fine. I think I got the ramp and everything pretty much set up to where I hardly ever not get all my lands out and be unable to play my spells, which is why, you know, this deck is retarded, because the idea here is, you know, the downside to a 5-color deck is you have to think about, you know, mana fixing a lot more than other decks would, and and the upside is that you got better spells than most other people. Like, you know, that's the thing. But this deck just was made so super powerful because I think they didn't expect you to consistently be able to pull it off. But I think, you know, with the ramp, you can consistently just get this deck going. So I think it's just it's pretty consistent for me, this deck. I hardly ever get mana screwed, is what I'm saying here. Which is why, of course, it's one of the best decks. And then, like, the other problem that the deck could have is that occasionally you may lose a game because you're playing your bombs and the opponent just kills you before you get something going. Because you got a lot of like 5 mana and up spells. At least in the regular builds, I've seen a lot of people playing with this deck. They got a lot of really powerful, really late game spells, and they can get killed before they can get that going. And you know, I dealt with that with my build, and Lavalanche is a keystone to that. Where sometimes if they're playing aggressively and they keep on hitting you, and then you're like, okay, well, that's okay, because now I'm at like 8 mana, I'm gonna play my big bomb, and he's gonna stabilize me, and then they're like, murder, haha, you know, and kill you. Alright, so that's the problem, right? That is, I mean, this deck is amazing, but but occasionally you may still lose because of that. So how do you make this deck pretty much unable to lose ever? Well, by having Lavalanche in there, because that means that even in those situations you're like, oh, I'll just kill your side and hit you for 10 damage. And they can't murder Lavalanche, you know? So that's I mean, that gets by the control matchups and also the disruptive aggro decks that keep on killing your bombs and still hurting you. This gets by that, so that's why it's great. And then there's Naya Charm is amazing because you can just return your Lavalanche and you can play it again and hit them for 10 again and then they're dead. Or just your other amazing cards, you can get them back, and occasionally it does something else too. Pernicious Deed is obviously just a ridiculous card, and playing this early, you pretty much always just want to drop this turn 3 and not wait and try and surprise people with it, because dropping this early means they're forced to play around it, and it's really hard to play around Pernicious Deed. So, and even if they're playing around it, that means they're slowing their game plan down. And, that's exactly what you want with this deck, is that they're playing slower, because you're gonna win the late game. Don't worry about that. Vindicate, obviously just ridiculous. Day of Judgment, sometimes you just need to be able to wipe the board, definitely helps against decks that are faster than this deck. Glory Scale via Shino, again, also with the Lightning Angel. These three are in here because having bigger bombs would mean I'm too slow. And these can actually come out turn 4 and start doing some work for me. And if I can get some damage in, let's say 6 damage, then I can win with a Lavalanche followed up by a Prophetic Bolt, or either way around. And sometimes that means me win games that would otherwise be unwinnable for me, by being able to do that. So because this guy turn 5 you're striking in for 6 damage, and this guy turn 4 you're striking in for 3 damage, and turn 5 you're also striking in for 3 damage. So again, that's the 6 damage you need there to be able to Lavalanche for 10 and Prophetic Bolt to finish them off, or Prophetic Bolt, and then Lavalanche, or even Prophetic Bolt twice and then Naya Charm those back and Prophetic Bolt twice again, or even All Sun's Dawn your Prophetic Bolts. I mean, that just puts them in that range where you're able to use those spells to kill them. And I mean, that's I gotta tell you, the main way I win with this deck is by doing those kind of stuff rather than the bomby creatures, which are amazing. Don't get me wrong, but this just I mean, this is less. This is more consistent because it gets around those removal spells, and sometimes turn 4 can still be too fast for people. Maybe they still want to build up their side, and against a lot of decks, they don't want to kill this thing to turn 4 because instead they want to play their spells because they want to kill you before you can get out your big bombs. But what they then don't realize is that this guy is already a game winner on his own. So it means they can be too late in dealing with it. And if they take 6 damage with it once, it can definitely be too late. Because if they're at 14, there are a lot more options open to you when playing this deck. And then you got some card advantage here. You don't want to run too much. I think this is pretty much the perfect balance. Not much else to say there. Maelstrom Archangel is an amazing creature. We all know this. Prophetic Bolt is ridiculous. We all know this as well. This gives you 2 dudes, so even if they got a murder, you still have another dragon. Is also amazing. And they don't die to Maelstrom Pulse if someone is playing that, because they're not the same creature, so that's also great. Enigma Sphinx cascades, and if they kill it, you've already cascaded, so you've got some value out of it. Plus, it's put back into your library, so you're gonna draw it again and do it again. Magister Sphinx, if they kill it immediately, you've gotten to use its ability, which can save you from a tough spot, but the main purpose of it is to set their life total to 10. And if their life total is at 10, what did I tell you about that? You got a lot more options going for you. You can Prophetic Bolt them and go crazy with that, or Lavalanche. Those options are then suddenly open to you, which is what makes this card insanely powerful. is because, you know, you got those options then. Imperial Archangel, if they kill it... Oh, wait a second. Ha, they can't because it's got Shroud. Okay, that's why I run it. Sphinx of the Steel Wind. Alright, so this is pretty much the only creature that doesn't have like Shroud. And doesn't do anything if they kill it immediately. But it's got protection from red and from green. It's got First Strike, it's got Vigilance, it's got Lifelink. It's amazing. So that's why it's in there. And other than that, that is basically the deck. I mean, I run the stuff that's consistent and that will guarantee to win me the game most of the time. And this is the way to build it. But there's a lot of different builds you could be running with this deck. And I'm not saying those aren't bad. Those are bad. I'm not saying those are bad. No. Because, you know, this deck is just amazing either way. The only thing is, you gotta make sure to get your mana going. You gotta get your manas going. It's called Mana Mastery for a reason. Oh yeah, I'm not running this thing because I want to be a little faster than that. Like a lot of times, I don't have the time to drop this a turn. Like I'm behind and I gotta kill their creatures or do stuff or raise them for damage or, you know, and I don't have time to play Maelstrom Nexus. So it's been a dead card in my hand at times, and I don't need that insane card value, that card advantage value that this card would give me, because I already have that in the form of All Suns Dawn, Allied Strategies, Prophetic Bolt. Like, I don't need it. And this is random value, whereas the other things are more consistent in that. Another reason, like, there's a lot of cards in this deck that when you play them, there's not a lot to cascade into. If you're gonna ramp after playing this, then like there's nothing to cascade into other than other ramp, I guess. So basically, yeah. And the other big bombs are stuff that if they kill it, it didn't do anything, and that's why I don't run it. Another card you could be running is Karvek instead of Magister Sphinx. They both pretty much serve the same purpose, but I found Magister Sphinx a little bit more reliable. Because they could kill this with a murder and only have taken 3 damage, whereas this will guarantee they go to 10 and go within range of your Lavalanche killing them. So, and then there's like Violent Ultimatum, which is, let's not get too ridiculous. You don't need these cards to win, and let's be honest, they're just win more. So, I mean, it's insane, and nobody can do anything about being Violent Ultimatum. And you definitely win those games, but sometimes you can't play it, you know. So I want those consistent cards, and this deck is good enough that you don't need to go crazy like that. You really don't. You're gonna win anyway. If you just get to be able to cast your spells, you're gonna win. So you want to make sure of that first and foremost. Next deck is there's only one more deck left. Not really gonna talk about it too long. I guess we could call this tier 0. I don't know, but I'm doing it in tier 1 video because there's only one deck as ridiculous as this deck. But it really just is tier 0. Like, this deck is just... it makes me sick. It makes me sick that this deck is here. Not because it's not a fun deck. No, it's a fun deck. But because it just doesn't fit in this format. What is it doing here? But, yeah, basically, that's it. That's the story. It's goblins, you know... I don't really need to tell you anything about goblins. You guys know it's ridiculous. We all know it's stupid, and yeah, I'm just like, this deck is just way too good. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. And again, like, I would have liked this deck if the rest of the decks were as powerful as this. Like, it's not a stupid deck or anything. There's some fun and trickiness to be had, and I love goblins. Like, you know, as a creature type, I'm okay with goblins, but it's too good for this metagame. The other decks aren't always able to deal with it. It's just unfair, and you just hate to lose to it when you're like, wow, I couldn't do anything that game. Yay! It just makes for dumb situations because the other decks aren't powerful enough that they can consistently deal with this deck. And this deck is so powerful that there's like no actual bad matchup for this deck. Maybe Celestial Life, maybe, because of the life gain. But other than that, like, there's no actually bad matchup for this deck. It's just too good. So, yeah, that's pretty much all. That's my story. That's tier 1. I hope you enjoyed this video series, tier list, and you know, I'm sure some of you are not gonna agree with me on some of these decks, on what place they're in and stuff like that. I mean, everybody's got their opinion, right? That's what makes Magic a fun game. But do realize I tested this pretty thoroughly, and you know, you can accept that I know what I'm talking about. But you know, everybody's gonna have their opinion, and some people play some decks more than other decks, and sometimes like they get the perfect build for a certain deck, but not the perfect build for another deck, and they're like, wow, this deck is amazing, but like they're, you know, stuff like that. But in the end, you know, everybody has their favorites. Everybody plays the game slightly differently, and you know, and that really makes a difference sometimes in whether you like a deck or not. So, you know, I'm sure people are gonna disagree with me about certain decks. That's fine, you know, let them disagree. And I welcome it, in fact. I welcome people talking about this because maybe they have insights I don't have, you know. So discussion is always a good thing. So I definitely, I welcome that. If you got something to say, then say it. Except if you hate me. Don't be a douchebag. Don't be a douchebag, bro. So, you know what? If you like this video, then go ahead and leave your thumbs up because it would really, really help me out, and I would definitely appreciate it. You know, you'd prove to me that you're a good person, even if I don't know who you are. You know, you're a good person if you leave a thumbs up. So that's I am working your feelings, man. But yeah, basically, you know, I leave thumbs up on a lot of videos myself because I'm a good person. So, you know, learn by example, I guess. Well, either way, even if you don't thumbs up, I thank you for watching either way. And my name's been Nemo. My name will still be Nemo next time. And I'll see you with the gameplay video. So, peace.